Jazzcast Pros.
The holiday season can be really hard for our foster kids. It brings up memories, good and bad, and they really just want to be home with their families. I remember one time we had a young girl who had a visit right around Christmas, and she had made some special homemade gifts for her family. When she arrived at the visitation center, though, her family did not show up. So she came home feeling very disappointed and very sad. So we really do whatever we can to show our kids a little bit of extra love, a little extra care, a little extra patience with all the emotions that they're experiencing. One of the things that's been helpful for our family during the season is that there's a local church who every year brings our foster kids and our birth children Christmas bags, and they put pajamas and books and little notes of appreciation in each bag. And it's become something that our kids really look forward to. It's not a lot. It's not an expensive gift per se, but it just touches them where it makes them feel appreciated and loved. We also spend a lot of time making new memories and new traditions while also honoring our foster kids' old traditions, things that they did when they lived with their parents. We'll ask, like, what does Christmas morning look like at your house? And so we try to take those good memories and start new traditions in our house so the kids can feel more at home and just make the holiday season a little bit more special.
Welcome to License to Love. I'm Lori McKnight, Executive Director of Families Thrive.
And I'm Veronica Black, Director of Program Services.
Together, our mission is to demystify the process of gaining your license to foster or adopt in New York State.
And to empower you with the tools, insight, and confidence to open your heart and home.
Last session, we had a great conversation with a foster parent about her why and saying yes. We had a wonderful opportunity to talk about why all of us have said yes and why we're doing it. Often families want to foster a child to support them, and families often want to really just be there for children in care, to provide special times, a sense of belonging, even the holidays, just support them and give them whatever they can to make the children feel that family sense while they're in care. But as we know, Veronica, holidays can be tough for children. With Halloween and the holidays approaching, it seemed like a good time for us to take a look at what our foster families' thoughts are about the holidays, including the challenges, the joys, the traditions, and the feeling that the holidays evoke for some of our kids.
Lori, the holidays is very difficult for our foster children. Based on my experience and communication with our foster parents, a lot of them struggle with that because they have a hard time understanding why. You have those who go above and beyond and try to make sure that the kids have the best Christmas ever. And that was something that I did. I made sure that when my son came, that everyone in my family purchased a gift for him. I wanted him to have everything that my birth child had. So everyone picked something from the list. So he got a bike, he had a tablet, he had the Nintendo, the DS back then, those little handheld games. He had everything you can think of. And it just didn't matter. And it didn't matter because he wanted to be with his family. He spent, I want to say, maybe more than half the day in timeout. He struggled. He didn't understand why he was there with me and not with his family. So, we have plenty of families who experience that. And I try to remind them that they can't take it personal because it's really not about them. You have families who have reported, Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is difficult. Thanksgiving is really hard. I know for myself, we cut out the part of what you're grateful for, what you're thankful for. And this was in the beginning when my kids were first placed with us because everyone's response, we would go around a circle, was, I'm thankful for my family. I'm thankful for you. I'm thankful for this person. And do you really expect a child in foster care who's been bounced around, removed from the only family that they love and know, to say, oh, I'm thankful and grateful for, you and your family and being here with you? No, they want to be with their families. And I think the more we understand, I think it'll be easier for us to console and help that child to cope with and overcome some of those feelings, because it becomes triggers, and then you end up seeing behaviors as a result. So Thanksgiving is hard, Christmas is hard. And then also, if you flip it, you have those families who are not able to provide that Christmas that'll blow your mind. They have other grandchildren or children in the home, and they are only able to purchase so much. Because, their priority is providing a safe and nurturing environment. We don't really expect them to go out and buy, PlayStations and all that type of stuff, $500 gifts and everything, especially if they're not doing that for their own children. So, we have those families who struggle both ways. And I believe if the kids were asked what they wanted for Christmas, I believe many of them would say, I want to go home. And that's heartbreaking because they're unable to.
Yeah, I think that is a really important perspective that we really don't recognize. There's this, we talk about Mythbusters all the time here, right? Mm-hmm. And one of the myths is that you're saving the children. You're saving them from their family, from their parents, from their siblings. And you're bringing them into your home, and it's better for them in the long run. What we don't recognize is that regardless of what kind of trauma our kids have experienced, that they are loyal to their families. They want to be with their family. And even if they're having a fabulous time at holidays, we just got the latest and greatest costume to go trick-or-treating, or we're looking forward to Christmas. And we've looked through all the catalogs, and we still do get Amazon catalogs. So, and the kids get excited. But the truth is, they want to be with the people that they're most comfortable with. And I think we often don't think about, we place kids with strangers most of the time. If there's not a family member to take them, then they're being placed with strangers. So what you said about Thanksgiving makes perfect sense to me. How can I be thankful for being here? I didn't ask to be here. I don't want to be here. You are strangers to me, and I'm forced to be here. So am I thankful to be here? Maybe if there was some very traumatic abuse, but most of the time, these children are looking at their families, the loyalty and the desire to be back with their families. So we've been thinking about, all this, hype about Halloween and the costumes get bigger and more commercialized and more expensive. And so kids are all excited about that. But what happens when maybe this particular foster family doesn't even celebrate Halloween?
Yes.
Or maybe they didn't celebrate at home, and now I'm supposed to go get in a costume, and I don't know you, and you're going to take me around the street, and and then I'm supposed to be excited about this big turkey dinner, and then Christmas with you, when all you can think about is, what about my sister, my brother, my mom, my dad? It's something that I don't think we're as aware of as a community as we could be. Even though we know it's necessary sometimes, the trauma and the triggers that are experienced for the child in particular in those settings is far more than one would expect. I remember at some point, back in the day, fostering had that idea, well, you should be grateful. And, as for me personally, I didn't foster, but in my situation, I'm the one that's grateful. I'm grateful. Yes. I'm blessed that I got to raise these children. And I didn't save anybody. Maybe we saved each other. I don't know. But together we became a family because we worked through those things, and we had a lot to work through because, there's family, the family genes, right? And the family behaviors and the family traditions come with the child. So it's a lot. I like the story you were telling about how even a bike didn't make your son want Christmas.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It was extremely difficult, but I can think back. I recall a case where there was a family who wanted to give back, and they felt like being a foster parent was it for them. They weren't looking to adopt, but they just wanted to give back. They wanted to help a kid, help a family. And because of religious reasons, they were Jehovah's Witnesses. So of course they don't celebrate the holidays. Now, it was a very, very hard situation when it became the holiday season, because this family had the best intentions. They were providing that safe environment, the nurturing environment. They were loving, they were caring. It was year round. They were loving on these kids. It wasn't just holiday season. So when the holidays came, this young man was not able to celebrate, and he struggled with that. So they cared about him so much to the point where they allowed him to receive gifts, and they worked with the agency, and the caseworker brought in gifts, but he could not open them in their home or in their presence because they had other children there who did not celebrate. But what they would say is that they celebrate year round. They showered their kids with gifts and trips and experiences. That was their focus. It wasn't material things, right? That was a case that will always stick with me because that young man struggled around the holiday season. So not only was it, I'm not with my family, but now I'm with a family who doesn't even celebrate the holidays. Right. So it was really, really hard. Now, what are some of the behaviors you think families will see or should look out for? Because the holiday season, like we said, is difficult for kids, and it's going to trigger. It's going to trigger some of our kids. What can they look out for? Because I think, a lot of our kids would become like withdrawn. Yeah. They may struggle with depression a little. Hopefully there's no self-harm or anything, but are there any things that you think that our families should look out for? What kind of behaviors or?
Yeah, that's a great question, because I don't know that we have enough communication around topics like this. And that story that you told was really great. I guess I want to point out before I answer your question is that the family did even step aside from their own beliefs to ensure the child had what they're used to. And that's a beautiful story, even though it was very difficult for him. But, I think what we see is kids get angry. They can really show some anger, which is probably why you had a Christmas day full of timeouts that day.
Yes.
So that anger, and that and all of the emotion that they don't even know how to put into words, right? Most of the time, kids are not going to say, well, I'm really upset that I'm here with you because I really want to be home. They might do it in anger, but a lot of times kids don't feel like they should or can say that. And I know on my end, it was a weird situation where I was trying to do all the right things by sending the children, when I only had guardianship, to their family, and they were becoming very emotional at the fact that they did have to go. And I think part of that was fear that, are we coming back? Are we going to be okay? What's happening next? Why are we doing this? Because we don't do it very often. And so my Christmas Eve days were spent consoling and holding crying children. And it was tough. And one year when my child was old enough to tell me what she experienced and how she felt, she actually said, I even had a dream that you came and got me. And because her fear was, I won't come back. And these kids weren't moved around. This was a kinship type of placement between us. But think about the kids who've been moved a lot and they don't know, am I coming back? am I going to see my parents? And there's so confusion is what families should think about when they're wondering why their children are acting out or why they're not appreciative in their eyes, in adult eyes. They're confused. They don't know what's happening next. They don't know why they're there. They're struggling with everything from missing their families to the fear of what's next. So many emotions. And, we don't take kids to therapy and say, so they had a hard time at Christmas, right? We don't do that because it's a day. But when I think about how much anxiety or anticipation a holiday can bring, if you think about our kids, even for me, grandkids, Halloween, we're already talking about Halloween. We have to get a costume. We have to do this. We have to do that. I have a list for Christmas already. I mean, everything is about what's coming. And that in itself creates so much anxiety, emotion, triggering trauma.
Yes, it does. It does. And I just believe that as long as, we continue to educate our families and during our training sessions, making sure that they understand and that they're aware of the triggers and they know to reach out if they are struggling, and along with the child. So I think it may not be the best holiday for that family and that child. But like I said, as long as they are aware and they understand not to take it personal and they know what to expect, I believe it'll be okay. It'll be okay in time,
right.
And
what comes with that is continuity and consistency. And eventually the understanding that I'm here. And as that child, integrates into that family, or perhaps even knows they're going to get to see their family. When we talk to our foster parents, which you'll hear a couple stories in just a bit about how it is for our foster parents in their homes, they talk about how they want to provide, they want to give, they want to support the child. But some of those kids have visits, even on Christmas Day. We've all had to make those concessions and put kids in, in the situation of, well, we're going to have Christmas here for a while, but then you're going to go home, or you're staying overnight at your mom's and dad's, and then you're coming back. And that can really, that can mess up a child's whole emotional scale, and so we definitely could see some escalation. But we talk about that with families, but not enough, right? To be prepared, right. Because we all love holidays as adults. And so we're like, oh, it's going to be the perfect holiday. Everything's going to be great. And I'm going to
let's decorate.
Yes. Want to make cookies, want to go, let's go get the tree. And these are things some kids have never done, sadly. And with that, we've been talking with our foster parents about expectation. And so we don't expect you to go overboard. And you have to remember that when you do that with a child, you can't have the expectation of the birth parents when they return. Many of our families are struggling financially. And even some of our foster parents are struggling. They're making ends meet. They're taking care of themselves. And here, let's dispel this myth. Nobody gets rich off foster care.
Oh, no. No way.
We are not paying these foster families so much that's why they're doing it. But what they are dealing with is all of these emotions we're talking about. Sometimes they're dealing with their own personal belongings being destroyed. Their homes sometimes being destroyed. It's stressful. This is a stressful job. And so people are not out there doing it for the money. We are not paying them that much. And so I like to dispel that because families want so much to give, but some of our families are able to provide what you said earlier, love, nurturing, safety, just giving them that beautiful environment because it's a temporary placement. And the fact that birth families can't always do what some foster families are doing, we want to not have that expectation. We don't want to set the children up for failure and make them expect when they get home that they will get all these things. So,
Right.
yeah. And that's
Right.
challenging because we all want to make it a beautiful holiday for the children, but just being there for them and hopefully allowing them to talk to or see their birth parents is really will make their day.
I am excited to hear from some of our amazing foster parents and their experiences and what their plans are for the holidays.
Hi, I'm Mackenzie, and this is Richard Woodard, and we wanted to discuss a little bit about what we do in our home that works for the holidays. You know, with the holidays coming up, and in this situation in foster care, sometimes it's a little different, and this is what works in our home. We typically, for the holidays, we follow pretty traditional schedules. You know, Halloween, we'll take the kids out trick-or-treating. We'll go around, you know, we might go to an outing the weekend before. We do a lot of fall festivities. And then Christmas, you know, we will have our regular Christmas. We'll go get our Christmas tree as a family together. Typically, we make a big deal of going and picking out the tree and cutting it down, and we have a day full of, you know, fun activities. Obviously, everyone celebrates holidays a little bit differently, but our biggest thing is, you know, making sure our kids are included in our family and, you know, really talking about if they want to celebrate it or not. Our kids personally are still a little young, so we do celebrate it, but our oldest, you know, we give him more or less the option if, you know, he wants to celebrate it and how he did it. This year we are doing things a little differently, where we're actually going on a family vacation for Christmas to do more of a trip instead of needs or wants, just because as of right now we don't really need anything, they don't. And Dusty's going to explain to you how we kind of keep in touch with the biological family around the holidays too.
We try to keep in touch with the biological parents as much as we can. We try to FaceTime, depending on the holiday, and whatever we can do to keep in contact, keep them informed so they know, you know, this is still a pretty important part of the process.
Thank you.
We have some great foster parents, but I just love that they're aware, you know, being a therapeutic foster care agency, they're aware of what a holiday could do to a child. When the family said their foster children are either getting a home visit or they're on the, you know, getting a video call, those are the moments that children can cherish when you know, 10 years from now, they can remember that when I was in this home, that family let me see my parents, let me talk to my parents. If they legally can, or maybe I made a card, or maybe they even bought a little gift for me on my visit to bring to mom or dad.
I just want to add, think about the other holidays like Father's Day and Mother's Day. You know, those are also hard for our children. You know, I remember with my son, we're driving and he's having basically a panic attack because I had said to my other son, I said, you know, Father's Day is coming up. We have to go to the store so that we can grab something for your dad. And my son went into this rant and he just had like a panic attack, like, I don't have anyone. Who am I going to celebrate Father's Day with? What am I going to do? What am I going to do? I don't have a dad. And I mean, it was devastating. It hurt me to hear him talk the way he did because it was so real and so serious. I was speechless, and I'm sitting here and I'm trying to think of what to do because I was a single mom at that time. So all holidays should be taken into consideration, you know, every holiday, and think about how your child is going to feel. Don't just automatically assume that, oh, they should be grateful that they're here with me. No, that's not the case. You know, you have, even though they're not expressing it, that they're struggling or whatever, they didn't tell you they're upset because Father's Day or Mother's Day is coming along. Who cares if they say it or not? Still watch, you know, be aware of what's going on with your child, and they may start to show some behaviors around that time frame if they haven't verbalized it to you. So those are things also that we need to take into consideration.
And when you were talking about Mother's Day and Father's Day, we in this country, we don't do a great job. We put our kids in school, and all our kids are making Mother's Day cards and Father's Day cards, and I think they're getting better at that. But if you stop and think about you're just kind of forcing that, not just on foster kids, but kids who don't have another parent in their lives. So, that was something that I practiced. And, my kid's dad was not in a place they could visit him. And so, but we sent pictures and cards all the time. And then he sent gifts back. And I just remember feeling that gave them a sense of learning about someone they didn't really know. And I think those things are important. Just to, yes, we can make a card for your dad or your mom or your grandma and your uncle. And yeah, we can make that. We'll send it, and we can call if you want. Whatever we can do to kind of connect the child to their own culture, their own history, their heritage, their family, all of that. That is important. And when you talked about the Jehovah's Witness, I was thinking about, in my career, we had a lot of Mennonite families, and there were no holidays. So we had always had to look outside of the box. But even beyond that, we're forgetting that a child of one culture often comes into a home of another culture. And, now you've changed the food you eat and maybe the way you do everything, even from speaking. And so having those opportunities for kids to just be able to know that, first of all, it's okay. And whatever, we're going to do this together, however we can, I think is really important.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It is. It definitely is. It's funny you brought that up. For my son, on Mother's Day, there was a local organization that celebrated Birth Mother's Day, which was like the Sunday before Mother's Day. And it was in the park at a local cabin. And what we did was we wrote letters, the two of us. I wrote a letter to her thanking her for blessing me with an amazing son and my family. And he wrote a letter, and he thanked her for, the opportunity to give him a better life and making that decision. And when we went to this celebration, we got up in front of everyone, and he read his letter, and then I read mine. So, doing little things like that was big for him. That was really big for him. So
that is beautiful.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
And that's a way we can help these kids get through the holidays, when they can do things like that, or we do whatever we can, even if it's, let's just say it's a situation where the child can't have contact, right? Something happened. Even if the kid got to write, listen to me, the kid, even if the child was able to write something, draw something, and just something.
You be creative.
Yes. But just even being able to, yes, you can draw a picture for them. And I know sometimes kids will say, but what about my mom or my brother, at Christmas? What about them? What are they going to get? What are they going to do? Did you buy them a present? Yeah. And that's tough stuff. It just, again, it's kids are loyal to their birth families. But even when our families, when any of us, and a family gets divorced, sometimes we have to figure out how to co-parent, right?
Yes.
And so we forget that this could be a partnership. We can co-parent to help the kids not just get through the holidays, but get through the stay that they're struggling with, while the parents are trying to get, their life on track. And sometimes there's a grandma that can have contact when maybe the parents can't. Whatever we can do to support that child, we encourage our foster parents to do that. We help our foster parents make sure that they are set for holidays to try to meet the needs of the child. That's exactly why foster parents get paid. The payment is only and always for the child's needs. And so there's so many avenues we could go. We could be talking about this forever, because we know, we see everything from sadness to anger to, and sometimes just such joy even. There's some successful holidays. Like maybe we never got to do this before. I never got, I only got a mask. I didn't get a whole costume, or we never got to get a Christmas tree, or our gifts only came from, the local Salvation Army or whatever, right? So seeing different things in different ways, and even helping kids to choose when we're talking about Christmas, especially if they think, oh, this family can afford it, I can ask for all of this. But helping them to pare down and think about, what is it that you really want? And, here's what we can do. And, and making sure it's fair across the board. If you've got 3 birth children of your own as a foster parent, you need to make sure that other child that's or the child in foster care, everyone is getting fair across the board.
Right. So, I think we have to keep in mind that every child's experience during the holidays is different, right? So some may have had received elaborate gifts, and then there's those who did not. And I'm talking about with birth families. But then we have those who are in residential facilities.
Yes.
So before they step down into a foster home, they're in these residential facilities. And we had one young lady who did not realize that Christmas was a whole day, that you celebrated the whole day. She received a gift and she opened it at the residential facility. And that was the end of Christmas. They went on about their business. And when she was placed in that foster home, she was extremely surprised that they celebrated. They celebrated the holiday. There was dinner, there was family, and, there was friends, and it's just tons of gifts. She just didn't get that part. But I think, with us knowing that and families understanding that each child's experience is different, our ability to prepare and educate them and also ensure that we approach, the situation lightly with the youth would be a little better, I think, because if you know already that child has not had a great Christmas, then you know what you can and cannot do. You know what I mean? You know that you have to give him or her something. There has to be something. And you may want to, go all out. But if this is a kid that normally has a big holiday and you're not in a position to provide that, then that's where, our families reach out and they say, hey, are you guys providing Christmas gifts this year? I just need a little help. And we do accept gifts. So we have people from the community that reach out to us who want to sponsor a kid or sponsor a family for the holidays. And we so appreciate it. The kids love it, although we know that this is a difficult time for the kids. So knowing that is half the battle, so it's not something that, we can make that child overcome right away, that the struggle, them missing their bio family and everything. But I think with that right support and, therapy, and I think, it's never going to be perfect, but I believe allowing that child to have some contact with birth parent, if permitted,
yes.
Depending on the situation. Right. But yeah, I think as long as we know, that child's background and where they're coming from, we could figure out what type of Christmas or holiday to ensure that child has.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned resources from the community. We're so thankful and grateful when we get sometimes large amounts of gifts. We call them gifts. They're donations, and sometimes they're monetary, and sometimes they're specific toys or clothing items or winter wear. My favorite is when we get the duffel bags full of items for our older teens aging out of foster care. And I always tell everyone that that population is my heart. And I think about them aging out, not being able to go back home, and not really feeling like they have a resource or a family, and, you know, wondering where do I spend the holidays? And, you know, am I going to be on my friend's sofa, or can I go back to my birth family, or where am I going to be? And so having mentors, having supports where someone might take one of the kids in for Christmas or Thanksgiving or their birthday even, is so important. And I just love when we get those donations to be able to give all those health and beauty type personal care items to our kids, in winter wear as well, because foster kids are not typically suffering when they're in a home with a certified family. But again, there's families who can't do a lot of extras. And then there are those young people who are just tired of the system. They want to be out. They've signed themselves out, and they just want to be somewhere. That sense of belonging again. Like, can I just be somewhere for the holiday? And we love that. You know, there's some community mentors out there for that. There's some gifts for them. You know, I will always say that population is my heart, because they're trying to become adults independently, without family, without resources, without supports. And imagine that a person just didn't have any support, were on their own, you know, at such a young age. So I love that the community steps in and supports foster kids aging out, so that whatever holiday it is, whether it's, providing them with a little turkey dinner or Christmas and birthdays, I think about how important those days are to some of these young people. You know what I love about the community? Well, they put angel trees up everywhere, and everybody wants to give these gifts. And we, as agencies and foster parents, are grateful. We need that. Without those angel trees and those gifts, some kids would not have anything. But we're all working together to try to make holidays less stressful, less traumatic, and, as joyful as possible.
I agree.
Yeah. So I think, we've come to the end. I think next episode, we're going to jump back in to talking about more processes around the foster care certification and what it looks like. And now we've given you kind of a glimpse of what it could be at holiday time as we approach that time. But we appreciate all our listeners and all the community supports that we have.
Right. Yes, we do. And our amazing foster families.
If you're curious, cautious, or already in the process, License to Love is your roadmap on this journey.
Every child deserves a safe, loving home, and we're here to help you gain your license to foster and adopt. Follow License to Love on the Jazzcast Pros Network, available wherever you get your podcasts.